So, as Dr. Shrikant sir has instructed me, I'm going to speak on diabetic retinopathy and how practically we are going to have some guidelines for our Indian patients, because there are so many guidelines available in the literature and people are following that, and it becomes very costly for our patient. So we have to think about this. Now, I read a ICO guideline of 2017 for diabetic eye care. In Europe, actually, initially it was ETDRS and DRS who gave us some guidelines, but those are sometimes very costly, and our further improvement has taken place in due course. So the European guideline says that, the ICO guideline rather, says that you have to divide your patient depending on what kind of settings you have. Like if you have high resource settings, then the treatment would become slightly different. And the high resource setting means that where you have good equipments available, all kinds of advanced or state of the art screening is available, and management of diabetic retinopathy is done based on current evidence and whatever the clinical trials are there. In a place where you have low or oblique intermediate resource settings like we have in India, the essential of core to mid-level service for screening and management of diabetic retinopathy differs in the sense that we have to consider the availability and access to care in different settings. Like in India, we don't have all kinds of OCTs available. There could be at some places laser available, and at some places even laser is not available. The fundus camera is also not available. So those kind of problems are there in India. In Allahabad, we have some very good setups. And in our department, we have all kinds of lasers and we have OCTs also. Now we have acquired OCT angiography also in the department. But this is a very place where high resource settings are there. But in periphery where these settings are not available, there you are in problem. So what you have to do is that the classification is also slightly different in this. In mild NPDR, you simply see the microaneurysms. In moderate NPDR, you see microaneurysms and other signs like dot and blot hemorrhages, hard exudates, and cotton wool spots. But they are less than severe NPDR. So that kind of situation is there. In severe NPDR, we have a lot of intraretinal hemorrhages in all the quadrants, and there could be definite venous bleeding in more than 2 quadrants. Then there could be intraretinal microvascular abnormalities in 1 quadrant. And you should be able to see with your fundus camera or with your indirect ophthalmoscopy and 70 diopter examination that there are no just 1 quadrant is having intraretinal microvascular abnormalities. But there should not be any PDR. And proliferative diabetic retinopathy, you all know, is PDR where neovascularization is there. You should have all the fundus camera and laser photocoagulation available with you. These are some of the examples given in the ICO guidelines. These are not my photographs, but here you can see that in some places you will have only just a little bit of macular edema, and macular edema is a portion wherein you cannot see the capillary details there. That is called macular edema or thickening. The previous definition of ETDRS of 500 micron and all those things are gone here. You have central involving diabetic maculopathy, macula involving maculopathy, or beyond 1 disk diameter of the macula that gets involved. Then you have some dot hemorrhages also and microaneurysms. So this could be considered in a mild kind of edema. And so macular edema, as I said, that it could be a non-central diabetic macular edema where the thickening does not involve the central subfluid zone in the 1 millimeter area of the macula. And a place where the central one is where this is involved. So that is one which you can consider as clinically significant macular edema. and immediately think of treating the disease. Then again, you have this kind of macular edema and hard exudates that are there within 1 disc diameter area. And then there are these changes of non-proliferative variety. You can see blot hemorrhages are there. Some hard exudates, the ring is also found here. There's another ring in the periphery, so now NPDR is also there. And so these kind of changes you have to look for, since this course involves the comprehensive ophthalmologist. So you have to think of treating like this. And there could be another scenario where you have so much of hard exudates in the macular area, diffuse kind of macular edema is there. And then you can have in the peripheral area, you can have cotton wool spots. These retinal hemorrhages could be there, blot hemorrhages could be there, and you can see there are so many hemorrhages. So you can easily put this, and there is no neovascularization anywhere. So you can put this in severe NPDR. So the treatment would differ here. Another case where you have severe NPDR and you can see these new vessels are formed and venous bleeding is also there. There is this kind of hemorrhage is also there. And in the macular area, you can see some hemorrhages and thickening is also there. There are soft exudates here. So this is PDR having big problem in this case. And another case where you can see new vessels on the disc and pre-retinal hemorrhage, which is boat shaped. So this is PDR with high risk characteristics. If you get this kind of picture, you have to immediately jump to pan-retinal photocoagulation without bothering much, and no other investigation should be done, or you can give a intravitreal injection, and along with this, you can do a pan-retinal photocoagulation and do a OCT and look for macular edema. So that will help you in diagnosing the disease and treating this patient. Another case of PDR with high risk characteristics, you can see these fibrous bands have formed and new vessels is there. Then there is a pre-retinal hemorrhage here also, other hemorrhages are there. So this is also PDR with high risk characteristics. Here, when you get a fibrous tissues, then PRP should be done very carefully if you do, but best is to refer this patient to a person who is doing a vitreoretinal surgery, who will manage this in a better way. But one injection of anti-VEGF would help this patient. So in the high resource setting, what you have to do in diabetic retinopathy is that if there is no diabetic retinopathy, in 1 to 2 years, you have to re-examine the patient. Mild to moderate, this thing you have to examine within 3 to 6 months. That you have to do in Indian setting. In Indian setting, the frequency of examination should be more, because diabetes is usually uncontrolled and you are unable to treat these patients. In severe NPDR, you reduce the follow-up, the time of the follow-up much less. And you can even do in Indian setup, what I do is, because these patients don't come up for follow-up regularly. So it is better to do a early PRP in these cases, because if the patient comes to you with vitreous hemorrhage, then you are in trouble. So these kind of protocols should be followed. And so these things have to be. Now, if the non-central involving diabetic macular edema is there, then you have to follow up these patients regularly in high resource settings. When in a low resource setting like us, I would say that you do a focal laser photocoagulation. That means that you have to laser the microaneurysm, so that should be done. If it is central involved, then you, of course, you do anti-VEGF therapy with focal laser in low resource setup, and you give anti-VEGF injection after getting a OCT done, and that can be done. And after 3 to 6 months, you have to check this patient whether the diabetic macular edema has stabilized or not. So that sort of thing is there. So these are some of the things that you have to do. An OCT everybody should have. These days, I find that general ophthalmology having this. Excuse me, I have 2 talks simultaneously. The coordinator, please look at this. I have 2 talks simultaneously. Dr. Manish Tandon is not coming, so I'll take some more time. Thank you. So here you have OCT, which is most sensitive method for diabetic macular edema. And you do OCT for macula and look for whether there is any traction, present there or not. So you look, this is almost normal OCT where the contour is normal and everything, little bit of fluid is there. But here you can see there is so much of fluid there, and there is little bit of these changes are also there. In this, the edema is marked, and here in this case, you can see there is vitreous traction. So the management would differ. Like in low setting like ours, here nothing is to be done. Here you can give anti-VEGF and simultaneously you can do a focal laser so that it becomes almost a final treatment for the patient. Although the recommendations are that you keep on giving anti-VEGF injections regularly and see that this edema subsides. But in our setup, if once we give anti-VEGF costing around 20,000, many patients don't come up. Some patients come, those who are having good socioeconomic status, they might come, but others don't come. Here in this case of vitreoretinal traction in the macula, there you have to resort to surgery. The laser or injection would not help much. So this thing has to be taken care of in macular edema. So FFA, sometimes these days the incidence of FFA has reduced because of the availability of OCT, but you need to do FFA in almost all the cases where renal insufficiency is not there, and you have to look for any non-perfused areas and neovascularizations. So these things have to be looked into this, and microaneurysms can be better visualized by doing angiography, and plus the ischemic macula that you can know. Now in this case, angiography has been done. You can see the leak is so much, and there are some microaneurysms here. This pre-retinal hemorrhage is also there. Here you continue doing PRP and anti-VEGF injections and do a lot of PRP in these cases to see that this neovascularization subsides. So that can be done. A PRP looks like this. You have to give lots of shots around 1500 to 2000 in all the quadrants up to the equator, and then again do FFA or OCT, etc. repeatedly. But FFA is done after 3 to 6 months when you will find that the neovascularization has subsided and regressed. So that can be done. So follow-up is very, very important in these patients. In Indian setup, what happens that patient comes to you and you call them again, they don't come. So many a time they come back with vitreous hemorrhage and they say that the treatment was not proper. So these kind of thing has to be, so PDR, you have to do PRP, anti-VEGF injections are important. Other costly anti-VEGFs are also available. But Indian scenario, as I've said, the compliance is poor and follow-up is poor, patients are poor. So you immediately give one injection and then do PRP. Okay, so these are the things in Indian scene that you have to take care of. In high resource settings, you have to follow the protocol. You have to first control the diabetes properly and then start doing almost the same treatment, whether the central macula is involved or not. Depending on that, you will give injections or not. If you are going a combined treatment of anti-VEGF and laser photocoagulation, then don't go close to 500 micron in the macular area. Otherwise, you can cause problem and the vision would go down. So the present day regime is injection, and you continue doing this. In Indian scenario, monthly injections followed by treatment interruption, as I have already said, is very good. And majority of our patients will settle if you do a combined anti-VEGF and laser photocoagulation, so that can be done. In high resource settings, you can continue with intravitreal anti-VEGF injections if diabetic macular edema is there. And as ETR all have said that we have to manage it like this. So with this, I would just stop here. Have a high socioeconomic strata like this. These are very little percentage. And here you would find that a poor patient comes to us, we have to manage accordingly. So these are some of my thoughts which you have to take care of. And triamcinolone is also a very good thing that you can give.
I'm really sorry to interrupt, sir, but time little to go, and we have to manage time.
I'll stop here and I'll stop sharing, and I'll invite Dr. Abhishek Saran for the next talk.
Thank you, sir.